Hello, everybody, and welcome to Behind the Camera. So here we are with episode 87 of Behind the Camera, and this episode I feel really takes storytelling to a whole new level. My guest this week is Jessica Danel. Jessica is the author of Bucket List from a Redneck Girl, a memoir which details a lot of stories about Jessica's life, a lot of which that we dive into in this episode. And I don't think I have ever said as little in an episode as I have in this one, because Jessica's innate ability of storytelling is just second to none. So I really, really hope you enjoy this episode as much as I enjoyed recording it. As always, if you'd like to stay connected with Behind the Camera, all of my links are also in the description, including the pre-order for my upcoming book, Behind the Camera, The Journey So Far, releasing on the 5th of March on Amazon. I'm also on Patreon. For £3 a month, you can get extra behind-the-scenes content, access to an exclusive series where I catch up with old guests, and much more. Now, here's the interview. Jessica, welcome to Behind the Camera podcast. Absolute pleasure to have you on the show tonight. How are we doing?
I'm good, Andy. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. So, yeah, you had your own childcare preschool business that you built from the ground up, but you left this to focus on your daughter's special needs. What can you tell us about your background, like from this building, like being like an entrepreneur, building this business, and what it took to leave it all behind?
Okay, so I did write a book about my crazy upbringing, my crazy life. I called it Bucket List from a Redneck Girl, and it's a little nutty. So I come from a small farming community in Northern California. I know people that think about California, they think surfing and all that, but no, there's lots of farm. Like I would say more farm than anything else. Oh, wow. And I come from a very small town. Lots of people we know, I mean, not a lot of people, but we know one another. Like you could say a name, you're like, oh yeah, I went to kindergarten with him or whatever, like you knew everybody. And so, I'm 52, so I mean, I'm okay to say my age. So I'm a lot older than probably you, but I grew up like in the 70s, 80s, 90s. Okay, high school, I graduated in 91. So in my book, I talk about all my upbringing. My dad would discipline us. Well, literally only me in the family. One of my chapters is called The Belt, the Hand, or the Hanger, and that is how I had to take it. And I had to give how I wanted it. Like I had to tell my dad the belt, the hand, or the hanger. And I picked the belt, and I'll tell you why. So the hand, my dad was a big dude. Okay, so the hand stung like a mother, and then the hanger always left welts for days. So the belt was like the best one because sometimes he'd hit me over the butt, and it would wrap around and didn't hurt at all. And in those times, I would cry, "Where's Daddy, that hurt?" And so so that's kind of like the era that I grew up in. I mean, my parents, I did not get along with my parents, to say. It's like, I mean, I write about in the book, and you always, when you start reading it, you're like, man, she must hate her mother. I don't. Me and my mom are best friends now, but at the time, we just did not like each other. I mean, they put me in a drug rehab when I did not do drugs.
Wow.
Never done drugs, still to this day. I think, well, still to this day, because I never wanted to prove them right, but I never did drugs. I mean, I drank alcohol, like not a lot, and not even to this day do I drink excessively at all. But they put me in a drug rehab, and I was I was in basketball, cross country, track, all 4 years. I was on the school newspaper, the yearbook committee. I was a school photographer. I was a joiner. I was very popular. Went to dances like a nerd, you know what I mean? And, got all dressed up and prom dresses, the whole thing. I was all into school. It was like the best time of my life. And then my parents dumped me in this drug rehab. And, of course, when the drug test came back then, it took like 4 days. I'm not on drugs. So then they're like, okay, let's pull her out. But then, so then they took away my basketball season because they had to put me in a drug rehab because of my attitude or whatever. I was like, whatever. So my senior year, I basically was all packed up and ready to go. I wanted to move out the moment I turned 18. Needless to say, I ended up taking a road trip after I graduated high school just before. See, I wasn't allowed to move out till I was 18.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't let me, but I graduated when I was 17. Like, because I'm a September baby. So when June came around, I graduated high school and I'm still not 18 yet. And I was like, damn it. But my girlfriend wanted to, I'm just going to tell you this story real quick because I know I'm good on a tangent, but it's kind of a funny story. So my girlfriend, and I talk about this in the book, I call it my God story, and I'll tell you why in a second. So my girlfriend and I, she's like, let's go to Utah because my mom and dad were out of town and my brother was throwing parties and he told me I had to stay in my room. And I was like, well, F that. You're only a year and a half older than me. You're not even allowed to drink alcohol, but they were partying. So I was like, and mind you, I mean, we're redneck, but we're middle class rednecks. We're not like low end rednecks, you know? So, I mean, my brother was partying up in our house with a bunch of strangers. So I was like, fine, let's go to Utah. And from California, we went to Utah. I got there in this Chevy Citation that my parents gave me. And that for graduation, basically, it was a used car. It was a repo car that my dad repossessed. And I mean, I'm thankful that he gave it to me. Although he did give my brother and sister brand new cars. I got the repossessed 1981 Chevy Citation, and it was like a 10-year-old car, but okay, whatever. I'll take it. Took it to Utah. And then I called my brother to check in and say, I'm fine. I just wanted to check in because you were partying last night. Wanted to tell you where I am this morning. Mom and dad are on their way home. They've called the police. They're a runaway. 3 months before I'm supposed to move out, they're calling me a runaway. Okay. And so now they're sicking the police on me. And so I'm like, fine, I'll come home. Okay. So this is where the story takes a twist. We get in the car and we ask her boyfriend for some cash for money. And he's like, oh, it's, back then you didn't have ATM cards. I don't know why. We just didn't have them, I think. And so he couldn't write me a check and we couldn't go to the bank because it was Sunday. And I was like, he didn't have any money on him. I'm like, I told him how much I had. He goes, you can get home on that. Because back then gas was $1. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, let's go. And I asked my friend which way to go. And she says, take 80. And I said, okay. So I get on 80 going the wrong way.
No.
So we ended up in Idaho and we were out of gas. So if you think about it, like I literally went the opposite direction from you. So we ended up in Idaho. I didn't know where we were. So we stopped for gas at this crazy place. And in the story in each chapter, I talk about other things, not just what the chapters related, and it kind of all comes full circle and you'll see things that I said and it'll make sense in the book. But we ended up at a filling station, out of gas and starving, and come to find out, well, you have to read the book. Damn it. I made it home and we were safe down, but we were in the middle of the desert in Idaho and you got to feel we made it home. So it's kind of a teaser, but it's a very good part of the story and it's called My God Story and it's a miracle that we made it home. But I'm telling you right now, every single thing in that chapter is the absolute truth. So, growing up, I had a lazy eye. So like they called me Popeye. So I leaned into that in my book and called myself the Popeye girl. And I talk about, surgeries that I had on my eye growing up and what that was like for, your literal beauty is in the hands of the doctor. When you're just a kid, you don't know that how much it's really going to mess you up when you're older. So I never felt pretty, like growing up, I never felt pretty. And I was a tomboy and I like sports and playing with my brother, baseball and all that, And so, I went to public school like most people did until I ran away from home when I was in the 3rd grade. My parents, I said, I want to go to a private school with my friend. And so my parents, they grew up Catholic and they both went to a boys and girls Catholic school. So they're like, okay, we do want this for our kids. We want to send them to Catholic school. And so we ended up going, I'm not Catholic anymore, but I grew up Catholic, very Catholic, even married in the Catholic church. But I no longer think, I still have Catholic guilt, but I no longer am like a Catholic. I'm more of like a non-denominational. But growing up, I was super Catholic. And so I wanted to go to school with my best friend who lived around the block. And so when my mom was picking out our uniforms, I go, Mom, those are the wrong color. And she's like, no, these are the right color. Come to find out, she sent me to a total different school than my best friend. And I ended up going to St. Joseph's when my friend went to St. Patrick's or whatever it was, or St. Francis. And I was like, mother effer, I can't even get to the right school. Like my parents just are not. So it was just terrible. And I talk about it in my book about the nuns. They didn't like me very much either. And I was smacked in the face a lot. And so I talk about that. One of the nurses did. I learned to play the guitar, and so I played in the church choir. So that was one thing. When one of the nuns like took me under her wings and let me sing, I was singing and playing the tambourine. I was rocking and rolling in the Catholic church. Although it's like super hymny. It's not like it is today. Back then, it was like just, man, banging the tambourine was like as jazzy as it got. I'll just tell you that. So then, I was plucked out of that school, put back in public school. And then I was the girl that people made fun of. That's a lot of times, that's where the Popeye came in mostly. And then, the new girl, it's what it's like to be a new girl and nobody knows you, but it's weird because everybody knew me because of the neighborhood, because we're so close. We lived in a place called Park Circle, and I talk about that. And there's a chapter just on Park Circle and all the friends. And then I talk about high school, how I wouldn't change a thing because obviously I was a joiner. I loved everything except for being stuck in a rehab. And then I had one of those 3:00 fights. I was a good girl, didn't cause problems, didn't fight, wasn't aggressive. And then this girl was like, I read a really bad note that I shouldn't have that was in her pocket. I talk about it in this. I should not have read it. It had something to do with pregnancy, and I don't think I'm going to keep it or something like that. And so, of course, I shared it with all my friends. And so she wanted to kick my ass. And of course, she had every right to, because I'm a brat. Like, I could not keep my mouth shut. I was a hyperactive brat. And of course, I told everybody, and she wanted to kick my butt. And I said, okay, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. I know you could be mad and angry, but I'm not going to fight you because we're about to graduate. And if I fight you, I can't walk with my friends. I'll get kicked out of school, and my parents would really kick my ass then. And so somebody said, let's fight at Jessica's house, and then she's at home, which means I can go step in our school. And it was true. If you go and step on your property, then you are no longer at school. You are at home now. And then if you step back off, you can fight her, and I won't get in trouble. And it's true. And so I taught you got to hear the fight. It's my funniest chapter, I think, in the whole book, and it's called I Just Had to Do It. It's because I was pressured and pushed into fighting somebody that I did not want to. Even my best friend, I'm like, Janelle, I'm not mad. Like, I don't want to fight anybody. I'm not mad. She goes, whoosh, smacks me across the face. She goes, how about now? I'm like, all right, let's do it.
Wow.
And so we ended up fighting on Wildwood Way, which is my street. Appropriately named for me, I think, because that was my street, Wildwood. Okay, so then life goes on. Okay, my car I got hit by a drunk driver. My car catches on fire, and literally some guy scoops me up and carries me out, and the car blows up, just like in the movies. I swear, so true. And then after that, I had no car, so then I was out of a job for a little while, and then I got back in. I was always teaching preschool, by the way, always teaching preschool and waitressing. Those are my jobs. I always had 2 jobs. Even today, I have 2 jobs. 2 jobs my whole life. And then so then I hear on the radio I'm getting out of work, and my high school, I just left. Like, I was just a few months away from, I just left the high school, and there's a school shooting, and I knew the guy that did it. Yeah, he walked into our school at like 2 in the afternoon. Well, just before 2 in the afternoon, and kills 4 people, shoots 9 others, and holds like 80 hostages.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I knew the guy. I knew the people he killed. He killed one of our teachers, by the way, which everybody, loves the teachers, and one of my good friends. And it's really a sad story. And the guy himself, we knew him. He was graduated 2 years before me. And my sister was at the school at the time. And I did a podcast. I have a podcast right now. So I did one on that episode. It's on the school shooting with somebody that was there, because obviously I had just graduated. So I didn't have the school shooting, but I was, 30 minutes away, and I drove as fast as I could. And I talk about what my family did for the community at that time. I I went to KFC and got like buckets of chicken and went to the school where there's all these families, and I was just giving out like tens of buckets of chicken, and blankets. I collected blankets around the neighborhoods and came out because it was May, and in Northern California, May is chilly. And it was evening. It was very cold, and so I was just giving people blankets, and then my mom was sitting with one of the parents of the. She didn't know they were sitting there waiting for news, and my mom was sitting with Beeman's mom. And when they got the news about that he was killed, and one story about this little guy, there was a girl, the gun was in the girl's face, and Beeman goes, no, and he pushes the girl out of the way and takes the full brunt of the hit right to the head.
Oh,
and he laid on the ground dying on the carpet for like 30 minutes. And I mean, it just makes me want to cry right now. I'm trying not to. But so it was a very, very tough thing to go through because they're your friends and their family. We're all connected in some way. I told you our town was very, very close. And so it hit us really, really hard. We still to this by the way, we still to this day, Facebook brings us together, and we're like, we'll never forget. And we, commemorize it and memorialize it. Sorry. Yeah. On Facebook, telling stories that and every year, the podcast that I did, I'm going to post it so everybody can listen to it. But, there was a movie done on this. It's called, you can find it on Amazon Prime, Rage. Let's see, wait a minute. Target of Rage. And it's also called The Siege at Johnson High. So this was 1992. And not a lot of people, this is like one of the first shootings before Columbine, which was like 2000. 1992, you look it up. Lyndhurst High School shooting. Lindhurst. So the reason why it didn't get a lot of headlines is because there's a few things. One, news was not like it is right now. Like right now, the news 24 hours, you're like constant chaos, like all the time. Back then, it was, your local news. It barely got around. Also, the Rodney King verdict came out on the 29th of May. And then the next day, that day and the next day they were rioting. And then the next day was the school shooting. So we kind of took back page to some crazy news happening in LA, and the world was focused on that and didn't really pay attention to this, or it was like a flash in the pan, they thought, right? Yeah. Oh, that's something that happened. Well, now it happens all the time. And possibly had they paid more attention, maybe Columbine wouldn't have happened had they, started working on it a little bit sooner. But anyways, that's something that it's in my book, and I go into it in better detail, but it's just something that happened to me, and I feel like it's, I feel PTSD from it. I cry every year, every time. When I wrote the chapter, I cried a lot. I couldn't even reread the dang book over and over. When I got to that chapter, I just kept crying the whole time. But hopefully you won't cry. And then, I started finding my prettiness. I started to feel pretty, and I had long blonde hair, and I was thin, and I started to feel pretty about myself, and then I met somebody that I guess she just taught me how to be sexy. I guess how you say it. It's funny because in the whole book I talk about like I'm awkward, I'm this, I'm that, and blah blah blah, and then all of a sudden I'm like butterfly, like oh here I come, And so I met somebody, and she taught me how to be pretty, and it helped me a lot come out of my shell a little bit, and I was a cocktail server and a preschool teacher. So I was doing a lot of that. And then I eventually met my husband in 1997, and I worked in a nightclub. And it was, I guess you would say, like, if you ever seen Vanderpump Rules on Bravo, that's what it was like. Crazy. If had they known about us at Zelda's in Palm Springs, they would have literally made us a reality TV show if it had existed at the time. And so I write about some of the funny things that we did. We almost took off in a charter bus. Like there was some like Greyhound bus in our parking lot, and we all jumped in. We were all drunk at a park because we were at our staff year party or whatever.
Yeah.
We all jumped in and we're like to the door, and we're like starting up, and then we all just started cracking up laughing. But we we didn't take off in it, but we sure as shit started it. And then so then my husband came with a little bit of baggage. I talk about it in the book, like I wasn't sure I wanted to carry this load, but he had a daughter and an ex-girlfriend. So the ex-girlfriend was crazy. And so when I'm not the bio mom. I call her bio mom in the book because I hate her, for one, but I hate to say that is so if my stepdaughter hears this, sorry honey. But I hate her mother. She's freaking psycho. She made our life terrible. And in fact, we were in court all the time, and I was actually in labor in court.
Oh shit.
In Long Beach. I didn't know this, but I was in labor the night before and I didn't really know. I just kept getting up to go to the bathroom. I'm like, damn, I have to pee like every 10 minutes. Well, that wasn't what it was. And so we get out of the car and I step out and I have this one bad contraction. And then my husband's like, are you in labor? And I'm like, I don't know. I've never had a baby before. Like, I don't know. And so we went inside, and then sure as shit, I was in active labor, like 4 hours away from our house. And so we asked for continuance, and she's like, no, she's faking it. I was like, bitch, I am in labor. And so then my sister picked me up, took me back to Palm Springs, which it's not that far, but in freaking LA traffic, it's 4 hours away. And so my husband barely made it for the birth of my kid, our kid, not my kid. But it all worked out in the end. And then my husband and I moved from Palm Springs to Bakersfield, and I started doing daycare in my house. And I was so good at what I was doing. I was good at sales, but I was really good at I offered a very good program, but I made sure that people knew that it was a good program, and I sold it really well. And so I always had a waiting list. So then we built onto the house, and I hired a couple people, and we added more kids, and I had a huge waiting list. And so then someone said, hey, I have there's a preschool at a church, and if you buy the preschool, you get a 2-year lease, which isn't a very long time, at the church for the business. And I said, okay. Basically, I spent $25,000 just to have the opportunity to lease the damn thing, because the lady had no kids and the toys were like for shit. And so I ended up redoing the whole thing and hired 8 people, was rocking and rolling with like 50 kids. And I had the family daycare, was rocking and rolling. So then somebody said, hey, I want to build a business. I have a new property, commercial property, and I can build you a 10,000 square foot building, and you'd have a 30,000 square foot play yard. You just have to fix the inside and fill it with toys and do your thing. So I'm like, I don't know anything about business. I don't have a degree. I have a AA degree in child development, but I didn't have like a business degree. Yes, I was running a business and I was doing business things, but kind of like a mom doing it. It was like I didn't really know what I was doing. It was like, oh, here's your invoice, that I did on like Word.
It's like an extension to what you were doing, like with your own kids at the time, almost. Yeah.
So then I was like, okay, crap. I went online and I Googled how to make a business plan, and I created a business plan. And I was able to secure a loan from Small Business Association, which is SBA, for like $700,000. And I built the inside of the school to the specs. In fact, the building was built. I wrote out how I wanted the building on the inside to be on a napkin and gave it to the contractor. I said, just like that. I want bathrooms here, this. He's like, okay. And so he drew up the plans, and I was there almost every day going, no. Those toilets have to be lower for kids, children, small, short. I told him that. So I was there every day, and there's a lot of change orders, obviously, because I guess I didn't convey what I wanted in the beginning very well. So that's a lesson learned. But I was also selling the parents. So when it was a dirt lot or it was a shell, I was saying, over there is going to be the preschool room, and over there is going to be the computer lab, and over here is going to be and they were like, sign us up. So on day 1, I started with 140 students.
Wow.
Can you imagine going to your first job or your job and you didn't know what to do, and they're like, okay, here's 140 people, manage them. So it was hard. So, but before we got there, I Googled on how to do policies and business procedures and this and contracts and this and that and that. So I was all set up. It took a year to build this, 9 months to build the school, and I was rocking and rolling with everything we needed. And on the first day, I mean, parents would swipe they had like a security card. They would swipe their little security card to open the door, and the door would open. I'm like, hello, And it was wonderful. So I had the capacity to hold 208 students. I had a staff of 28. I had a cook. We had a janitor. The whole thing. We had a bus. We'd pick up school agers and bring them to school. I mean, it was $1 million. We were rocking $1 million business. Mm-hmm. And then I don't know if you know this about. I don't know if you're in the United States or not. Are you where are you at?
UK.
UK. Okay, because I'm 2008 we hit a slump. Wah, wah, wah. Oh, yes. So the economy went to shit right as I opened my preschool, and I was doing great, so good, but then all of a sudden people started losing people wanted to come to me. They all came to me, my school, and then everybody started losing their jobs. So when dad's off work, they don't need a daycare. They need dad at home with the kid until he can find a job. And that's what was happening. I went from my best was like 188 students to 88 students. And so teachers I'm trying not to let them lose their jobs. And I was injecting my personal money, and I was pregnant. And it was my second child, and I was green. And I talk about this. My husband goes, because the swine flu was going around, and he goes, I don't know if you've ever heard of the swine flu, but the
swine flu made it over here as well. It just wasn't as I don't think it was as widespread as anywhere else, but yeah.
So my husband, because he works in a hospital, he's a physical therapist. He's like, honey, I'm so sick. He goes, I was so sick. I was green all the time. Green. My face looked green. And he goes, man, you're so sick. And he goes, I think I got you sick. And he goes, go to the doctor. So finally I made an appointment. I made the doctor, and he comes into the school, and he goes, man, I don't feel good. I go, you don't feel good? He goes, yeah, I think I have what you have. And I go, oh, really? When are you due? I'm due in 9 months. And so it was like, he's like, no, because we're older. He's 9 years older than me. And I was at the time 36 or something. And I was an older person, and that was crazy. And so I was not feeling good the whole pregnancy. I wasn't feeling good. And so then I had the baby, and it was terrible. It was like the worst experience of my life. And I talk about it in the book. My daughter was born. She had big welts behind her ear, like I would say quarter size bruises, thick lumps. She had a hematoma and fingernail marks where the lady was doing this. They thought the doctor at the NICU, the NIC unit, thought she was dropped. Because the way she looked, she ended up being emergency C-section. And I talk about it in the book. I kind of make fun of myself a lot of ways, because I'm a dork. So I'm actually making fun of the doctor as he's trying to open me up. And so I talk about that. It's really funny. I didn't realize that it was the same doctor. I was like, that stupid doctor. As he's opening me, he's like, yeah, that would be me. I was like, oh my God, just hurry up and take it out. Anyways, I'm constantly making a fool out of myself throughout life. It's just my thing. So anyways, that all happened. But then 5 days later, we found out that she was still in the NIC unit, and they had to release her. And the doctor's like, hey, nurse, did you hear this murmur? And the nurse is like, no shit, dummy. We're here every day with her. And so she's like, yeah. And he goes, well, I have to send her off for an echocardiogram. Come to find out, she's got this thing called tetralogy of Fallot. She needs to have open heart surgery in like 5 months. Oh, wow. So I talk about it, and the doctor, his bedside manner was not that great. So she has to have surgery. So what happened with the school was, my landlord, who approached me before for the building and everything, he wanted to buy the school since the moment I opened it. And I finally just said, okay, I need to be with my daughter, and I couldn't really leave her side. I couldn't leave her with anybody's care, and I couldn't focus on the school. And we were losing money left and right, and I was giving money that we didn't have to give. So, and then not only that, but I was kind of targeted through cancel culture a little bit.
Really?
Before cancel culture was a thing. The news came to my school, and I had been in the news a lot for the school because we were a big thing in town. Like everybody wanted to be in my school. And I thought, oh, they're going to do a news story on my school. This is awesome. Come on in. No. She sits down and she shows me some pictures. Okay, so back before when there was MySpace, people, like back when there was MySpace, there was a website called Photo Bucket.
Yeah,
and you could go in
that.
there and make memes and everything, right? And you would just make memes and you'd post them on your Facebook or whatever. And so I would find pictures really funny and I would put a little saying and then I posted on my MySpace. Well, this Photo Bucket account, I didn't have it on private. Like I didn't realize you could do that or whatever. I wasn't very technically savvy. And so I had some memes on there that I would put on there that I thought were funny that this news person did not think was funny. And I'm going to tell you what they are because it's going to make you so embarrassed. We all know that I am embarrassing, right? Because we've already established that. So one that she thought was not so funny that, I'm a pretty chubby girl. But this is not nice what I had. There was 3 very obese ladies standing together, kind of in bathing suits or whatever. I can't even say it. It's so embarrassing. I put a little saying above it and I go, I bet you they make love under pressure. Not nice. And then I had another one.
Oh, dear.
So then I had another one where I know it's terrible. And so then another one that said, there's a little boy and he was blonde, just like my son, real cute little kid. And he was naked, but his whole body, every inch of him was covered in maxi pads. From his mom. He went in and he covered himself in maxi pads all the way except for his face. And then I put now that's a creative kid because my school was called Creative Kids. And so I put now that's a creative kid. And she goes, do you think that's funny? And I said, yeah, that's like super funny.
Clever, if anything. Like.
And so she goes, that's not funny. And I'm like, I go, I think it's funny. I go, but and then I totally lied and said, other people have this account. It's not just me. It could have been my teenager. So then I totally lied. Like, I don't know. I was scared. I was shaking. I was just had a baby and I was postpartum. I was about to cry. I just said, you don't have my approval to, I said, this meeting's over. And I go, you don't have my approval to use my image on TV at all. And so they stood out in front of my school though, with my big old sign, which was a professional, really nice preschool. I mean, it was to the nines. It was $1 million school. It wasn't just some janky sign. It was a kick-ass sign. Anywho, so that's kind of happened. And I was like, I was over the whole thing. I was emotional. I was being cancel cultured. A lot of my parents, no one left because of the newscast, but a lot of moms gave me the side eye, like, it's like, whatever, lady, have a sense of humor for F's sake. So then that happened. I sold my preschool. The guy didn't give me the money that he was supposed to. So we were in mediation. I didn't even get the full money for the school. It was a freaking joke. And then, I didn't tell you this part though. I had my family, how I tell you my family's kind of nuts. My wedding, I had a Jerry Springer wedding when I married my husband. Yeah. First of all, his family didn't even show. They must not like me. They didn't even come to my wedding. We got married in the church that my grandfather built, that my grandmother ran. I told you we grew up Catholic. My grandmother worked at a Catholic church. My grandfather built the damn thing. And father, who was always at our Christmas dinners, married us. And he knew that we weren't, really, my husband and I weren't going to Catholic church or my fiance at the time wasn't going to Catholic church, but he says, I'll put you through some counseling. We'll do some confession. And he goes, you'll be good. And so he married us in the Catholic church where I always wanted to be married. It was in the Catholic church in the church that my grandfather built, that my grandmother ran with Father Dylan, who was a great guy. So that all part turned out great. And we've been married for we've been together 28 years, married 25. And I kind of feel like anybody wants to get married out there, get married small, in a small wedding and a small thing, because they seem to last a little bit longer than the ones that you make it big to do about. Just saying. I'm
Can't
just
agree.
saying,
Can't agree.
right? But I didn't tell you, like my stepdaughter, I was telling you about it
Mhm.
earlier. Bio mom. Oh my God, she took us through like so much. So I talk about her a lot throughout the book, but she was always trying to break us up. But my husband and I are like, it made us stronger. It made us like us against you, you dumb. I want to say a bad word, but I won't.
Oh, you can't hear. It's fine.
Okay, she's a twat, dude, for like legit. She's a stupid twat. And I swear she legit tried to make our life miserable. We spent like $50,000 in like attorneys until we ditched our attorney and I started doing everything myself, all the pleadings and all that stuff. So I was writing a lot. And we won everything we went to court for every single time. It was wonderful. And so I was getting better at writing, especially because we were emailed like a lot. But then after my business, my husband's like, well, what are you going to do now? And I'm like, I don't know. He goes, well, you can't just stay at home. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I'm a stay at home mom. He's like, no. You got to work or you have to go to school. And he has a master's degree and I helped put him through school, his last 4 years of school. And I was like, all right, I'll go back to school. So when my daughter, when she was 2, we found out she had cerebral palsy. So she had all kinds of medical issues, a lot. And more so now we found out more that technology and testing wouldn't show us back then. That shows us now. We know a little bit more. But at the time, I was like, okay, she's in a special preschool. So when she's in school, I'll go to school. And when she's asleep at home in bed at night, I will go to school. And I was home in between. So I'd drop her off and I'd go to school and then I'd pick her up and come home. And then when daddy got home at like 7 and they all had dinner, then I'd go back to school. And I did that for 4 years. And I got my BA in administration or business administration and marketing. And so then after that, he's like, okay, now try to get a job. Oh my God. Trying to get a job in today's society is so different than it was back then. I could show up like with some tan legs and short skirt and I'd always get the job. And now it's like, no, put a resume in online and we'll get with you in like a month. And I'm like, ugh, it's so hard. But I did get a job working in broadcast media, not the talent, by the way. I worked behind the scenes. I'm doing like orders and things like that for a local TV station. I love it. And then when COVID hit, I was bored. Like I'm just sitting here going like, okay, what do I do? And I decided to go. There's a reason why I decided to get my, almost like, have you ever seen the commercial where the guy goes 11? He's seen the word 11 a lot. 11, 11, 11, 11. And it's like master's degree for 11,000. And order number 11. And there's this commercial and this guy goes, oh, I see all the signs. I'm supposed to get my master's degree. Well, I saw the signs and I talk about it in my book. I saw somebody from my old school like many years ago, and I talk about it. You have to read it. It's freaking hilarious. But I come home, tell my husband, I go, God told me I have to get my master's degree. And he's like, what? And I go, I know it sounds stupid, but I'm following the nuggets, like, the breadcrumbs. I'm following what he's showing me. And I'm telling you right now, I need to get my master's degree. And so he's like, well, follow your path, whatever you want, continue to get your degree. Just, can you do it while you're working? And I'm like, yeah. So I did it during COVID at my desk. I went to Grand Canyon University and got my master's in project management and marketing. And so I'm very educated, but I'm still working like this low end job. So I thought I better get a better job. And so I started looking again. 4 months later, I find something, but it's a wee bit more money, but not that much. Mm-hmm. So I said, okay, I'll quit the other job once political season's over, because I do all their political filings and everything. And then that passed, and I was doing both jobs for like a month, and I was like, let's just see how long I can do this. And 4 years later, I'm still doing it. But I'm getting I'm so quick at what I'm doing. I'm really good. I mean, I'm not tooting my own horn, but I'm very fast. Mm-hmm. And I work ahead, and like I'm sitting here looking. I only have a few emails to even answer after we're done here. But what happened was I was like, I all of a sudden just went out of the blue. I'm like, I need to write down my story, like my life. Like I'm telling you things, but I haven't told you all the things. There I'm talking like a crazy lady, right? And there's just so much more intertwined in my story that's in my book. And so I'm thinking like, I need to write this all down because this is just crazy. And maybe my kids will know a little bit more about me once they see the book when I'm dead, like it'll be out there forever. And so I took me 2 months and I wrote the book. It only took me like during my downtime. I was like, okay, lunch and after work for a couple hours. And it took me 2 months and it was done. And then it took me like 6 months to the rest of the year to like reread it over and 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 over, like to make sure it sounded good. And then I shopped for a publisher and I found one. It's like a hybrid. I paid a little and then they did the rest. And it was through Christian Faith Publishing. And that was a great experience in a way because I learned a lot. And so here I am, I'm still doing, and I decided to, because I have a book, I'm like, well, how am I going to get my book out there? No one's going to know it. I mean, Facebook, I only have so many friends. Like nobody's going to like know who I am. So I decided to start a podcast and I call it Jess Saying with Jessica Danel because there are other Jess Sayings out there. Just saying. Not as good as mine. But my podcast is exactly how I'm talking to you. It's kind of like how we go, except for I actually let other people talk when I'm on my podcast. Not like I'm not letting you, but other
this
people.
Is what this is all about to me. This is what this is all about. It's your story and you're embodying behind the camera in the best possible way. So like, I'm loving this.
I let other people talk. I don't talk. I mean, I try not to, but then I interject because I've been through so many damn things. I'm like, oh my God, yes, that happened to me too. And then I'll try to tell them like things that have happened. I can speak on a lot of things. I have not a divorce, but I court custody stuff. I've been through that. I've been through, abusive-ish parents. I mean, my mom and I are good friends now. And she even says, I don't know why we were like that with you. Don't ask me why. I think it's because I was a trying kid and they had 3 good ones and they didn't like the one that I wasn't. Like they're like, damn it. Can't you just be good like the others? I don't know. I mean, I didn't turn out to be and I did make some poor choices when I found adulting hard. When I was younger, I didn't tell you this part. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should let you read it. No, I'll tell you. So 3 weeks after my 18th birthday, I went to JCPenney's with my neighbor. And he says, and I picked out a shirt and I was behind him. I was in front of him. I paid for my shirt. And then he goes, will you sign my mom's card? She goes, you're a girl and you'd have better handwriting, and just sign her name. And I was like, okay. Well, let me just say, not okay. Okay, people. I got arrested and he's trying to tell him like, oh, no, I told her to sign it. It's my fault. And he's trying to tell them not to take the guy's manhandling me, throw me in the back room. And he's like, stay here. I just stood there like a dum-dum. I should have just ran, but I didn't. And I got arrested for credit card fraud or whatever. And that was a felony. And so the guy, he bonds me out or whatever, that kid, my neighbor, and he picks me up and he's like, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, what do I do? Do I tell? I never told a living soul until I wrote my book.
Holy shit.
And I put it in my book.
When you said sign a card, I immediately thought you were signing your name on a birthday card or something, not signing for a credit card. And I was just sitting thinking there, I was like, yeah, I've definitely been guilty of exactly that, saying your handwriting be better because but then obviously whenever you said again, I was like, okay, definitely not guilty of that.
I had just left home. Obviously I was just 18. It was just after I got anyways. So I went to court in my most church-like dress.
Oh, wow.
And he asked me what I did for a living. I said, I teach preschool. I was a preschool teacher. And I go, and I'm a waitress and I'm living on my own. And he saw my date of birth and he's like, I'm going to reduce this down to a misdemeanor. And he goes, and I never want to see you in here again. And I chalked that up to a life lesson learned. Let me tell you, my dad, in my book, I talk about my dad's freaking favorite quote was lessons learned. And after he spanked me, he'd go, now, did you learn your lesson? Because life is nothing but lessons learned. And let me just say, I learned my lessons. I was never in trouble again, except my 21st birthday, which is another story that I didn't tell you about. You gotta, okay. So I went my very 21st birthday to a bar with a cop who picked me up because I was having an argument with my boyfriend that he wanted to arrest. I talk about this in my book. It's crazy. But the cop wanted to ask me out for my birthday and he was really hot. So I was like, okay, let's go for my birthday. And he took me to some bar with all of the people from his precinct. And I was drunk. And he was like, I think he thought, she's drunk enough. Let's go. And so, because, we were probably going to have sex that night. And so he was hot. I was hot. Why not? Right. Yeah. And so I get in my car and he's like, okay, just go that way and I'll follow behind you. Woo, woo, woo. I get pulled over by a police officer, not at the party, by the way. And he stays behind. I thought, oh my God, won't he just come up and tell the cop that I'm his friend? No, the cop gets me out of the car and I do the whole thingy. And sure shit, I was drunk. And he puts me in handcuffs and throws me in the back of the car on my 21st birthday. And then all of a sudden I hear a roar, 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 roar. And so some talking from behind. And I guess my cop guy got out of the car. He came in, he goes, I didn't realize she was that drunk. And so the cop admonished him, said, shame on you. And so they pulled my car off to the side and he goes, your lucky day. And he unhandcuffs me. And I got a ride home, but I almost got a DUI. That was my other brush with the law. Never again, never again, yeah. Never again, never again. God. I made some poor choices. Adulting was like really tough for me.
Well, in the case of that one there, it sounds as though like he set you up a little bit inadvertently, as it may,
right.
But
right. Why I got pulled over is because he told me to take a U-turn and there was all these pylons and cones and stuff because it was a construction zone and you're not allowed to do that in that construction zone. You weren't allowed to take a U-turn. And so I did what he told me. And he goes, I know, I told her to turn there. So the cop, that's the reason why he pulled me over. And wasn't like I was driving bad. It was that I was making a poor choice and taking a UE when I shouldn't have.
Oh, yeah.
But so I don't know. There's just a lot. And then at the end of my book, I talk about mastering my mistakes because obviously I made a shit ton of mistakes. And I talk about them and also my mom and dad, because they didn't have resources to help them, like internet or social groups or anybody, they did not have a manual. I say we don't have a manual for parenting, but we kind of do. We have the internet, but my parents did not. And I'm giving my mom a little bit of grace, and I understand that she did the best she could. Now my dad, on the other hand, he's no longer living, so I can talk however I please. And my dad was a wolf in sheep's clothing, and I talk about that in the book too. He was a total douchebag to my mom. But they stayed together until he passed away. And but he was not good. No. Didn't turn out to be as he's a hardworking guy though. He worked his ass off, drove 45 minutes to work and 45 minutes home, and was home every night. And so that you got to give him. He's a hardworking dude. And but there's a lot of things, and I talk about it in the book. Got to get the book. Absolutely. Now, I am a chick, so all you guys out there, you're like, oh, it's a chick book, Yes and no. But if you have a sister, you have a mom, you have a cousin, you have a grandma, it's a great book for any of them because it's funny, it's relatable. And I have a little Easter eggs in there throughout the book about the time and the era, like my yellow Formica kitchen. I talk about that, anybody that lived through the 80s knows, your colored kitchens that you had, and the phone on the wall, just all the little things, the Avon brush and all the little things that we all had growing up that these kids don't have. But it's funny. It's a coming of age story, and a lot. Like I said, there's a lot that's happened, and I've only touched on a little bit of it. Oh, and I'm looking as I'm talking to you. I'm kind of looking at all my chapters. I'm like, I missed that one. I missed that one. I missed that one.
But you can't give too much away. You can't get. I'm like, that's the thing.
It sounds like I'm giving you the whole story, but I'm only giving you a tidbit of it. There's so much more intertwined. My babysitter robbed us. I mean, there's just so much in the book.
I honestly don't think I've ever met anybody with as much experience in terms of just shit happening, whether it just be a matter of circumstance, choice, or just wrong place, wrong time, or right place, right time, whatever it may be. Oh my God. obviously,
Well, I almost got blown up. Like, it's
oh
crazy.
fuck. But so like even like going through these experiences, like when you're kind of growing up, you sort of just, I mean, a lot of these things are when you're growing up, like generally speaking, I mean, it's almost like a flash in the pan. It's like this happened, and there's like the kind of aftermath, and then afterwards, it's kind of like back to normal life, right? But when it came to like writing the book out, like was it a point where you were just did it feel like cathartic writing it out and being like
Well,
reliving everything, even though like a lot of it's kind of just crazy story versus like
right.
a lot of candid, heavy emotional moments. Like how did that feel? Kind of like bringing back all of those like moments.
Well, okay. So, like I said, the last chapter is called Mastering My Mistakes, but I'd come to the end and I was like, now what do I do? How do you pull the into the book all together? And so I had to, look introspectively at myself and like, well, what did I learn from everything, each
Mhm.
chapter? And I really almost went chapter by chapter in the last chapter talking about like, well, okay, my parents been in drug rehab, but would I have done that for my kid? I might have, had I thought that they were, my dad thought I was they said they got it from a pamphlet that I was irritable, irresponsible, and withdrawn or whatever.
So
Come to find
basically,
out, I'm a
they seen
teen.
a pamphlet saying that you were a teenager. Like,
So come to find out though, I was anemic. So when the blood test came back, it said she was like highly anemic. So that was the whole reason,
oh,
which I had been throughout my life. My mom knew that, but I just needed iron. Okay, I just needed to be in a drug rehab. But I learned so many things from each chapter, and I just basically said what I learned,
mm.
and I really didn't realize certain things until the end of the book, and I'm like, damn. My mom and dad pulled all of my brothers and sisters from public school and put them in a private school away from all their friends growing up in the neighborhood, all of their buddies, because I wanted to be in a private school. And I made a big stink about it. I ran away from home, made a big thing. And so I didn't really think about how that would affect my siblings. And I looked at it like, man, that kind of sucked for them.
Mm.
And then when my mom had to pull us out of, which is my fault too in a way, had to pull us out of the private school because I didn't do my homework, and the teacher wasn't very nice to my mother. And my mom's like, okay, goodbye. And she came to the school and she's like, I'd like to unenroll all my children, please. She was like, and they're like, don't leave, because they need every little cent.
Yeah.
Anyways, so when they disenrolled me, she pulled my little sister out of the school. It was just me and my little sister at the time. And I was like, damn it, they pulled her from her only friends that she's ever made. And I didn't realize that, like, how that might have affected them at the time because I was being selfish. I didn't really realize. So at the end of the book, I do believe that anybody out there that wants to write their life story, there's just no way you can get to the end without looking back and going, "Damn, I needed to write that book." You know what I'm saying? Like I told you, I never told a story to anybody because I was so ashamed that I was arrested. I mean, ugh, can you imagine? It's so embarrassing to tell people. And I worked in preschool, so I had to disclose it every single job I got. It was terrible, and I had to get a special exemption because I was arrested, and how embarrassing that is. Like, okay, I was arrested. And then I have to tell the story about it. And they're like, okay, well, you just sound stupid. Like, you're just dumb. Like, I don't know if I want to hire you because you sound like a dum dum. You know what I mean? And so, but I realized that I became more street smart after that as well. And
Mhm.
um, I made for a very good cocktail server in a nightclub with me. That's where I met my husband. He was a bartender and I was a cocktail server and I was really good at it. I talk about that in the book too. It was a fun time of my life. And I'm glad I did it so that me and my husband both were like, so glad we did that part of our life because now we don't want to go near a bar. We're like, I'm done with that. Like,
Yeah.
do not want to be around people.
Of course. I mean, considering you spent like what the last 4 years working remote two jobs, and then you wrote the book, and
Well,
that's as like kind of away from people as you're possibly getting. Like your time with people outside of your family is reminiscing on the experiences that you had, and it is
yeah.
amazing kind of what you do learn by looking back on these experiences in comparison to just because you don't think about these things at the time, do you? You know, like this, especially like the
No.
deeper little things, you know, you mentioned about like, you know, your siblings and what the impact was for them, getting pulled out of school as well. It's just, you know, and it's important to remember these things. And I think it's like, you know, it's important for the story to be told because, you know, like even from like the sort of, you know, what you everything that we've discussed is probably, like you said, not really scratch the surface of, you know, half of it, but like it uh, the thing is as well, like I mean there's probably so much in there that there are like so many people are
Can-
able to read and just be like, holy shit, I resonate with this is
Let
kind
me,
of
let
like
me
similar.
let me tell you something. So when you write a book, you want to send it to people you know so they read it to see if they like it before you really send it to like a publisher. Because I wasn't sure, you know. So I had made like four or five copies at, we have a place called Postnet. It's kind of like a Kinko's type of place where
Mm-hmm.
you go and they'll print it and then they'll package it and they'll mail it. So when they said it's done printing, you want to come take a look. And I said, okay, I came, and one of the boys, there's a gay man, boy, I would say boy, because he was like 20 something. He's like, looks around, he goes, I'm reading your book. And I go, what? And he goes, yeah, I downloaded your book and I'm reading it. And the girl goes, me too. And this other girl goes, me too, over here. And I said, oh my gosh. I go, well, how do you like it? And the guy goes, oh, I love it. He goes, I love it. I love it. And all of them said they're all in different chapters. And they're like, is one of these for your mom? Are you going to let your mom read it? And I'm like, yeah. Because in the book, like in the first two paragraphs, I tell my mom to F off. And so they could tell that like me and my mom did not have a very good relationship. And they're like, you're gonna tell your mom? And I go, well, read the whole story and you'll get it, you know. And the one girl said, she goes, I'm just finding myself in your book. Like, she goes, I just think I'm like, read. She's like, you're telling my story. She goes, it's crazy. And so I'm like, man, I hope that I get that for everybody that tries to read it. They'll find a little piece of themselves in a little part of it. Because I do talk about so many different things, you know, your siblings and your brother teaching you to ride a bike and playing in the ditch with dirt and crawdads. And, you know, I was into everything. I was into Barbies and I was into the ditch. I was in everything. And I was touching everything. I was trying everything. I was, humping everything. So I feel like my next goal would have been the book. Okay, I wrote the book. Now what what's next? What's next? Well, I'm doing this podcast and I'm having a great time meeting people like you, having people come onto my show that are dads, millennial dads, talking about, the book that they wrote. I love getting authors on somebody out there that have a book, they want to be on my podcast, like legit. It'll be fun. So we talk about books, parenting, all kinds of stuff. And that's so much fun. And like you said, I work remote and I don't talk to anybody. So and obviously I like to talk. You can see. And so then I was thinking, like, what else can I do? And so I've always wanted to write a book, and not a book like my book, but like a romance novel. And so that is what I did. I am on my third romance novel. I wrote two and I'm on my third. It's a 3-part series. And before I think I'm going to self-publish them all at once so that people can buy them as a set, or they can buy them individually and then work their way to the next one. But I'm on my last one. I'm halfway through it. And so as soon as I'm done, then I'm going to reread the whole thing again, like over and over and over again. And I haven't decided if I'm going to go out to a company and have them edit and format and all that stuff, or if I'm just going to teach myself how to do it. Like I told you, that's what I do. I teach myself what I need to know, and I figure it out on my own, and save myself some money in the process.
Sure.
And then I think I'll just market my books on like TikTok and Instagram and all the different places, and on Amazon.
Yeah. Like,
So
I think that's a good way to do that is just, especially when you go from writing nonfiction to fiction, because like I have spoke to so many writers who have done both. And, one thing that they really highlighted was the challenge of going to fictional writing. And now I don't know what sort of steps they took to go into that, whether they were just kind of natural writers, but like at the same time, that I think your approach is just absolutely solid, where it's just like, I'll teach myself the differences. I'll teach myself what I need to do. And like, because, if you're telling a story, like, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, if it's reflective or if it's, something that you've created.
Mine's really sexy. Okay, so mine is a romance thriller. It's like 49 Shades of Grey. Just saying. I mean, there's some sexy talk. I'm actually writing it. I'm like, is anybody watching me when I'm doing this? Like, I think that's how people are going to be. They're going to be reading my book going, is anyone listening while I'm reading this out loud? Like, you want to read it out loud. It's like crazy. So it's kind of sexy time. And then there's a little bit of drama, thriller kind of intertwined. So it's kind of like a hybrid book. And honestly, I need somebody maybe to read it, go, yeah, no, this is a thriller, Jessica. They just got a lot of sex in it, or this is that, or whatever, because I don't know. But I do need to help. I do need to figure out like the proper formatting. And also there's a lot of dialogue in this.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have to make sure that I'm writing it appropriately and how it's supposed to be written, because my first book didn't have a lot of dialogue. It was just me narrating my life. And so I'm not sure if I'm doing it right or whatnot. But the first book was like 103,000 words. The second book was like 106,000 words. And so that book is like a 20 page, it's pretty thick. It's going to be a pretty thick book. All three of them. I kind of want them the same size so they sit appropriately the same on the shelf. Yeah. And then I will probably outsource the cover because I want it to be like a real dude on the front, muscly.
That's it. For a book like that, you need a good piece of eye candy on the front, don't you? For sure.
Yes, because my book is about a hot firefighter and an ER nurse. So
nothing sexier than the two of them put together.
Yeah. Like, you think of this sexy nurse and a sexy firefighter. Yeah, that's it. And then there's sub characters in the story, and then that are more sub characters in the first, but then play a better role in the second and third. Like they build a bit, they're building. And so then like the last book is mainly about the sub characters, bringing back in the main characters. Okay. So there's more than one main character throughout the book. So you don't just get bored. I mean, who wants to hear them have sex again? You know what I mean? And we got to throw in other stuff in there.
Yeah. Is it this year that you're hoping to have them all out as well?
I think it'll take me another year to reread them and reformat them and everything. It took about a year to write them, and I'm on chapter like 10 of the last book, and we're just gonna round it up. I don't know. I don't know how long it's taking because it's the first time doing it. And then after I'm done, I want to do maybe a political thriller, and because with the right and the left, there's just so much going on, so much drama. Sure. I can totally write a political drama. And then I was thinking maybe fantasy, like a mashup of like the Hunger Games and Harry Potter, something like that.
And I love that, you have these plans in the long term, like in terms of what you want to write. Like it's amazing that, since writing your memoir, you got like the bug to just go and do whatever it is that you want, whatever you want to put pen to paper on, you're going to just do it. And that's fantastic. Like, and absolutely. I cannot wait to read Bucket List for a Redneck Girl.
You're going to read it?
I'm
100%
going to read it. Like after this conversation, like, I mean, like it almost sounds as though like, as amazing as this conversation has been, it probably still doesn't do it justice, to be quite honest. And that's like one of the things I'm more excited about. Like, oh my God.
It is a great book. And once you read it, tell a friend. And the other thing is you can also get it on audiobook. It's not me talking on the audiobook, but I kind of tried to pick somebody that would give a little bit of inflection, because you know how I talk. I'm an animated person and I want the story to come across that way the best I can. But there is an audiobook and there is an ebook too. So you don't have to get the print. But if you do get the print, this is what it looks like.
Fantastic.
See? Yeah. It's got all my little pictures and same on the back. And I created the cover. I told my publisher, I'm like, exactly like every single picture in exactly this way. And so they're like, okay. And there's pictures in the book. And the reason why I did that is because who does not like to read a book that has pictures? I mean, everybody loves to read pictures. And you go onto Facebook, and what's the first thing you do? You don't want to read. You don't want to read what they have on there. They want to stalk them and look at their pictures.
That's the photos
And so
every
that's why
time.
I did this, so that there's pictures that you can see about, throughout my life with, private school. And, my brother's in he was an altar boy. I talk about that in the book too. So you can see, and I like some crazy awkward stages and this crazy stuff. And then you get to see all my kids on there and get a sense of like my life. And so that's why I shared the pictures as well.
Absolutely. And for anybody who has been listening to this, definitely check out the book. If you've enjoyed this conversation, especially as much as I have, definitely check out the book, because it's.
You have a website.
You do have a website?
So yeah, which you can go to. And also, okay, so my website isjesssaying.net. It's JESSSAYING.net. And you can go on there and see my podcast episodes, like what's coming up, and the guests. And if you click onto the guest name, it'll take you to their website, so you can learn a little bit about them. And I do post some of my shorts on there as well, but you can find a lot of my little podcast shorts on TikTok, Jess Danel at Jess Danel, or Jess Saying with Jessica Danel. You can look it up that way. And then I'm also on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook, X. I'm not really good at Instagram and X. I got barely 600 people. Nobody really. I don't know. I have to work on it a little bit, but LinkedIn, I got lots of people. TikTok, I got a few. So come like and subscribe. I need a lot more followers.
Absolutely. Yes. Make sure you check out, Jess and her work, and definitely, like I say, check out the book too. Well, Jessica, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing your story. Even though, like we said, we reiterated, it didn't even scratch the surface, but thank you for everything you have shared. I've never been more excited to read a book in my life, put it that way.
Thank you so much. And I hope everybody does. If you like it, then tell a friend or pass it on to somebody and share it, because that's the whole reason why I did it, so that people will find a little bit of themselves in the book and maybe get a little laugh at the fact that what I had to endure and how one person processed it. Because sometimes, we all handle things differently, and maybe I handled things a little, obviously. I found myself in jail. I found myself in, how many things did I go through? Insane. Andy, thank you so much for having me. I had such a fun time.
Well, it's my absolute pleasure, Jessica. Thank you again so much.
Awesome. All right, everybody.
And there you have it for episode 87 of Behind the Camera. Massive thank you to Jessica Danel for her time and sharing her story today. If you like what you heard, be sure to check out Jessica's book, Bucket List from a Redneck Girl, and podcast, Jess Saying. Links for both are in the description. Massive thank you to all the patrons. Your support is hugely appreciated, and as always, if you'd like to stay connected with Behind the Camera, you can find all of my links in the description as well, including socials, merch, and the pre-order for my upcoming book, Behind the Camera, The Journey So Far, releasing the 5th of March. Thank you for listening, for the support, and for being part of the journey. Until next time, take care, stay creative, and I'll see you soon. But until then, peace.